It's Pat Mannix from Paris Financial here, and I'm going to talk to you today about how to set up your financials for a growing small business. So there are some specific steps you need to take, and just be aware of them, follow them, and you'll be in really good stead when you're setting up and then growing a small business. Today, it's going to be all about the financials, exactly how you need to set things up for your financials. And these are the three key areas of a growing small business with their financials. First one is structure. The second one is your bookkeeping. And the third one is how do you deal with your financials when you're starting to grow. And that's what this is all about. You're growing your small business. The first person you need to have on your team when you're setting up a small business is a tax accountant for a couple of reasons. Number one, the tax accountant is going to work out your GST, going to guide you on your GST, going to guide you on income tax, and going to guide you on PAYG, withholding tax for your employees. So that is the first reason why the tax accountant is the first person you want to get on board. The second reason you need the tax accountant on board is that he or she needs to advise you on the correct structure. And if you start with the correct structure in your growing small business, you'll be on the right path right from the start. And one, you won't be paying too much tax. And number two, you'll be in the right structure for asset protection. So when you go and talk to your tax accountant, make sure you put to that person exactly where your business is expected to go. Because if it's just going to be a nice little growing small business and you're not sure how it's going to go, you may go with a very basic structure. However, if you feel like the business is going to grow fast, you might want a more asset protected and tax structured setup from the start, and that'll be via a trust. So your tax accountant is the number one person you need to get on board when you're setting up a growing small business. Number two is bookkeeping, and this is really important. Bookkeeping is going to be your day-to-day operations for your financials, and there are two ways to start with your bookkeeping. If you're going to turn over in the first year anywhere between $0 and about $35,000, you can start with Excel spreadsheets. It's no cost. You as the business owner can track every transaction and understand where it's going, so you're getting inside your financials from a really raw perspective, and also you can save cost by doing that. The second way, and the one I would recommend if you're in any doubt and you're going above $35,000 for the first year, is to employ a contract bookkeeper, or at the very least to get cloud-based software. So cloud-based software these days, heading into 2020, is really powerful and saves you an enormous amount of time as well. The two I would be recommending to go with yourself or a contract bookkeeper is Xero and QuickBooks Online. Those two pieces of software have won the market here in Australia. Both of these pieces of software have been purpose-built for the cloud, and they are extremely powerful when it comes to the productivity of scanning in your bank information into your accounts that has to then be looked at by the bookkeeper or to be passed on to the financial accountant. So have a look at those online if you're going to do them yourself, Xero and QuickBooks Online. The other thing about those two pieces of software, Xero and QuickBooks Online, is that there'll be plenty of contract bookkeepers in the Australian community who understand those pieces of software and can troubleshoot on them. If you're going to be doing the books yourself, they can help prepare your BAS if you're going to do the books yourself, or if you want to get it over holus bolus to someone to run your books, you're going to find a bookkeeper, and a good one, if it's Xero or QuickBooks Online. So that's pretty clear for you. If you're in any doubt or your business is going to grow quickly, get a contract bookkeeper on board straight away. So the contract bookkeeper is going to hopefully have a better administrative head than you because you're concentrating on your operations. And number two, they'll be able to come in, communicate with you, and save you time by getting the job done. Now again, if you're not sure of the time that you're going to put in for your financials, I would highly recommend getting a contract bookkeeper, because you've got to concentrate on your operations and your sales when you've got the start of a growing small business. The bookkeeper, once you get through the next stage of business, so you've got them on board, they're running your Xero or your QuickBooks, and as they go along, they're able to take your business as the trusted person dealing with your accounts and as putting things in the right spot of the tax accountant. So you start to develop a really strong relationship with your bookkeeper, and they will save you an enormous amount of costs. The other thing about a bookkeeper, which is important to note, is that, especially we find this in Paris Financial as tax accountants, is if you've got a good bookkeeper and they're putting the transactions into the right spots, into the financial accounts, it'll save you time when you come to do your tax with people like us. So often in small business, we'll get a business owner or a bad bookkeeper to be doing accounts, send them into us, and we have to rearrange the whole accounts to get them in to a spot where we can lodge a tax return. And sometimes that can be double the cost of a tax account because we need to adhere to the tax laws. And so a good bookkeeper can save you an enormous amount with your tax accountant. And we see that all the time. So get them on board. And absolutely vital is that bookkeeper. The next part of setting up your financial accounts and getting them right is when you're starting to really grow your small business. And this is what it's all about, growth. So when you're starting to grow and you're getting up towards $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million worth of turnover in your small business, you've got your financial accounts on Xero or QuickBooks Online, and you will have another piece of operational software that's going to help your small business. So for example, you might have a program that is excellent on stock, or retail, if you're running something like Shopify to run your e-commerce for a retail wholesale business. And that software, is going to be vital to the operations of your small business. So what you need to understand with that operational software that's going to help you with either sales, stock, all those sorts of things, much better to get that right from the start. And the cloud-based software in that area, just like Xero and QuickBooks Online, the cloud-based software is important to have a look at and get right, because cloud-based software, operational software, can potentially work in with your Xero or your QuickBooks Online, and in addition, it'll reduce enormously on the hardware costs of running your IT within your business. So with growth, you've got Xero or QuickBooks Online, and then you've got your operational software. The temptation in a growing small business to that level, $2-3 million turnover, is to find a bit of software to integrate everything. So that would be all of your purchase orders, your sales invoices, your sales quotes, the general ledger, the payroll, all of your financial accounts, everything. There are a lot of small business owners who waste a lot of time going out into the marketplace to get a full service piece of software in the cloud to run their small business. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, small business people get this wrong for a very good reason. So I'll explain it again. You've got your general ledger software here, Xero, which is running all your payroll and your financial accounts. And then you have an operational piece of software, for example, Shopify for your e-commerce type businesses. And those two can talk to a certain extent, but they are clear 2 pieces of software running the business. The temptation is to get that e-commerce Shopify and the Xero or QuickBooks Online to have it all in one to have the whole of the software all in one. And I'll give you examples of that. NetSuite is a tremendously powerful enterprise piece of software that runs everything: financial accounts, sales, purchase order, stock, everything in one program. NetSuite's one. There's Pronto, Attaché, there's a number of others out on the market. However, in my long experience, and the old man Noel, over 40 years, we've hardly seen a client who successfully, up to about 15 to 20 million turnover, put in a full enterprise piece of software for small business successfully. Wait until you get to 20 to 25 million turnover minimum to put in a piece of enterprise software. And the reason is this: if you bring in NetSuite at about 7-8 million turnover, you won't have the capability in your people in the small business to run the software, because you've got to be able to run sales, you've got to rerun purchase orders, stock, anything like that, timesheets if that's important for your business, and then you've got to run the financials in the back end, which is payroll, all of the tax liabilities, all those sorts of things, superannuation. You actually don't have the administrative and financial skills within a small business of that size to successfully run it. And if you involve us, the tax accountant, we don't have the outside skills to come in and successfully do that as well. Now you can get, for example, a NetSuite specialist to come in on that enterprise software, and they can come in once a month or so and tinker with that business. But you're talking about outside consultants who are going to cost too much. And added to that is the inside people on the financial accounts, the people working inside on the software, do not have the overall skills. And we've seen this time and again where business clients get completely frustrated. So up to about 15 to $20 million turnover in your business, keep Xero or QuickBooks Online and have one or two cloud-based pieces of software to work in to run your small business, because that is going to be very manageable, all right? The Bookkeeper is going to be able to handle all of the Xero and the QuickBooks Online. You're going to be able to handle with your team the two key apps like Shopify or another piece of software to work in with your online cloud, and then the rest in the background, you've got your own ways of dealing with the financials. The other part of software and financial support in a growing small business is a piece of cash flow and budgeting software as the business starts to grow. So I'd be recommending a cloud piece of software called Futurely. Again, we've looked at a number of pieces of software over the years to produce projected cash flows and or P&L budgets, etc. And we think Futurely is the way to go, Futrli. That's the way to go for projected cash flows, etc. I wouldn't recommend going through projected cash flows and budgets if you've got a slowly growing business or a business that's going to stay fairly small, because you can waste a lot of time with this sort of thing. However, if you're growing fast, you should get a piece of cash flow and budgeting software. And again, the combination of your external accountant and your internal bookkeeper is going to be able to run Futurely successfully. Again, Futurely, cloud-based software, powerful software, works in really well with QuickBooks Online and Xero, and it's excellent at doing what-if analysis about the next calendar year. I'll give you an example. You get towards the end of a calendar year and you're resetting for the next one, and you're looking at hopefully about a 5 or 10% growth in your business, in your fast growing small business. You can go into Futurely, do those predictions of 5 or 10%, and it's very powerful about spitting out all the information to set up your budget and your projected cash flow for the next 12 months. And you'll be able to see clearly when the big cash flow hits are going to be, for example, the end of the quarter with business activity statements and big PAYG withholding and superannuation expenses and those sorts of things. and it will also be a tremendous tool to set up your actuals when they come in against budget. And that can be really powerful as well when you're trying to potentially incentivize employees, see how you're going as far as expenses go and the cost of running the business as well. So Xero and QuickBooks Online feed beautifully into Futurely. And if you have that 12-month set out budget for your P&L and your balance sheet, plus the projected cash flow, you're not going to be surprised by the hits during the year, okay, for your cash flow in big amounts going out, as well as each month the Xero or QuickBooks actuals feed in to the Futurely budget, and then you can see exactly where you are going. So for a fast-growing small business, Futurely, in line with your general ledger software, is going to be a great way to go to compare budgets to actuals and keep you on the right track. Some people will use Excel spreadsheets for their budgets and cash flows, and we used to do that as accountants in the old days. However, it's a heck of a lot less expensive, more accurate to run high-powered cash flow and budgeting software like Futurely. So that's a really important piece in your growing small business. Futurely can be successfully run by the bookkeeper in guidance with your tax accountant, your external tax accountant. So for us as tax accountants and financial people, it's not too hard and not too expensive for us to guide the bookkeeper and the business owner to set up Futurely, set up the cash flows and the budgets, and then to come back to us on a regular basis just to guide it. And it's not, as I said, it's not too expensive and a good way to go when you've got the growing small business. So take heed of these things when you're setting up your growing small business. What's your structure? And your tax accountant can tell you that. The first person on board, tax accountant and structure. Get a very good bookkeeper, one you can trust and one who's really good at cloud-based software. And finally, be aware that when things are growing in your small business, don't get tempted to go off and look at enterprise software too early, like NetSuite, and be aware that if you've got a fast-growing small business, projected cash flows and budgets can be useful, and you should use some cloud-based software called Futurely to work in with those. That is the financial package for you to take your business forward, and good luck with it. See ya.